We got to talk about KT McFarland, who's on the line right now. KT, what a great day to have you here because there is so much going on around the world. It's a day when we need somebody who can connect the dots. So let me throw out a bunch of dots, and I want you to see if you can connect them, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we've got terror concerns in the Mideast. We're shutting down our embassies. We have evacuated Yemen. We told every U.S. citizen to get out of Yemen. There have been 5 that we know of drone strikes in Yemen, and one today that killed apparently 7 people. At the same time, in Nairobi, the airport basically burned to the ground today, and this happens to be the 15th anniversary of the embassy bombings in Nairobi. As you look at all of these dots, what picture begins to emerge for you?
Well, the biggest dot of all is that al-Qaeda is not on the ropes, despite the fact that bin Laden is dead. He's not on the ropes, as President Obama said a year ago. Al-Qaeda is in more places and stronger than ever. And it's about to get even stronger still, because last week, in another dot that needs to be connected, there were jailbreaks in Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq. And over 2,000 hardened al-Qaeda prisoners, criminals, terrorists, were released. Now, those guys are not going to go home and join the PTA. They're going to go back into the fight. So I think you'll see even more action throughout that region. But you've got to assume that the next step as well, and particularly out of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, that's the al-Qaeda in Yemen, is going to be to attack the U.S. homeland.
Well, let me throw out one more dot for you, if I could. It is the stated policy of the Obama administration that it's okay to send some people from Gitmo back to Yemen. People who are doing time in Gitmo, it is now the official policy to allow them to go back to Yemen.
Well, it turns out that some of the people released from Gitmo, actually by the Bush administration, were the people who were masterminding the Benghazi attacks. One of them was among the Libyan so-called rebels, was a former al-Qaeda Gitmo guy. So, you know, the thing about people who are in prison, the terrorists may have been bad enough to get into prison, but once they've been in prison, they're going to come out and be even tougher and more hardened. Now, what does that mean to al-Qaeda? It means they don't have to train some, 18-year-old, 22-year-old guy who doesn't know how to shoot a gun. They now have 2,000 hardened, experienced terrorists who are coming back to join the ranks.
KT McFarland's our guest. He's a Fox News national security analyst. And KT, your latest article at foxnews.com is headlined, Mr. Obama, empty threats, hollow promises won't scare al-Qaeda or anyone else. Of course, his leadership style is to lead from behind, KT McFarland. I'm guessing that your premise here is that that's not working anymore. What would you have him do?
Here's the thing. Leading from behind has left us cowering under the bed. When you talked about the embassy closings, there was another State Department directive that was issued. It was a travel alert. And if it was a long, complicated travel alert, but it basically said all Americans traveling anywhere overseas, watch out. Watch out in transportation hubs like bus stations, train stations, airports. Watch out if you're in large public places like tourist sites. Come on, that's like saying, okay, Americans, stay home. Get behind the door, lock it, hide under the bed. Is this where we've come?
So what should he do?
Well, I think you should do a couple of things. And it's not just al-Qaeda. It's bigger. It's much bigger than al-Qaeda. It's President Putin of Russia defying President Obama at every step and having real consequences when he challenges President Obama. Giving Snowden asylum is just one of many. It's Iran saying, we're really going to go ahead and build our nuclear weapons despite what you're doing. It's al-Qaeda. It's the Benghazi terrorists who were just today, a year later, finally, named in an indictment. It encourages behavior to test the limits. And, it doesn't take some foreign policy guru. Just ask any parent who's got a rebellious teenager. If you tell your kid, look, you're home before dark or I'm going to ground you, and then he isn't and you don't, what's he going to do next? He's going to stay out till midnight, and before you know it, he's sneaking out in the middle of the night. That's the way you have to understand the actions of other countries. It's the same thing. If you don't put limits, if you don't push back, they're going to continue to push, and exploit, and it'll have real policy consequences to the point where we're now, a year after Benghazi, we're now just hiding in hopes that al-Qaeda doesn't hit us again.
Well, you say about pushing back. Let's talk about the Russians for a moment. President was on the Jay Leno show last night and said...
Because that's where you go to discuss serious national security issues.
He says, quote unquote, we're disappointed that the Russians have given Edward Snowden asylum. Disappointed.
Disappointed. The President of the United States should man up and he should say, okay, that summit meeting that the Russians want so much between Obama and Putin, canceled.
No, he said he's going.
Yeah, well, he's going to be humiliated yet again. What he should do, though, is if there's a G20 meeting in September in St. Petersburg, Russia's chairing it. It's Russia's big moment to show that they've re-arrived on the world stage.
Yeah.
Rain on that parade. Have the president go to Poland beforehand. Talk to the Polish president about exploiting and developing their natural gas resources.
Katie McFarland, can I just ask you a practical question? We have American citizens right now in these 19 countries where the embassies are closed for a week.
On their own.
We're telling them in Yemen, get out right now. But, I mean, I guess you've answered my question. What do they do? If they have an issue, if they have a problem, where do they go? Do they turn to the Canadian embassy?
Well, there's no place for them to turn because the American embassy isn't open for business. The American embassies aren't open for business throughout the region. Look, I think it's probably the prudent thing to say closing the embassies, evacuating Americans, but time will tell. Let's have this conversation a week from now. Was there a terrorist threat that was thwarted? Was there an actual terrorist attack? In which case we'll say, thank goodness we evacuated that embassy. We saved lives. But if nothing happens, then I've got to question, what were they doing talking about this stuff? Was this just some big diversion? You know, maybe there's something to it. I think there probably is a lot to it. But again, by not going after the guys who got our people in Benghazi a year ago, we gave the green light to Al-Qaeda. I went back and looked at, there was a June 2001 training recruitment video that bin Laden did. And in it, he said, you know, we Al-Qaeda, we attacked the USS Cole. We attacked the embassy in East Africa, Kenya, as you said, and Tanzania. America did nothing to react, to respond. They didn't come after us. So come join Holy Jihad. Let's go kill Americans. And then you had September 11th.
All right. Well, listen, KT, thank you so much. It's really good to have you here on this particular day.